Okay. Hello. Whoever is listening. Just trying to make sure the microphone is working. Okay. So, in case you don't know, my name is John Camardo, and lately I've been creating books based off my characters, Squirt and Squishy. And I thought this would be a nice way to just kind of upload videos of me just talking about various topics related to them. So I thought this would be a great way to start. Kind of the origins of them and how I created them, where they came from. So to just jump right into it. I had always been interested in creating cartoon characters for pretty much my entire life. When I was very young, I was very interested in cartoons and stuff. I never really considered myself an author, really. I always wanted to be in animation. That was where I really saw myself. Unfortunately, that didn't really work out, but for years I had tried to basically create my own characters. And basically from probably around 8 years old up until, early college, I didn't really have any idea that I was like, okay, that you can make a TV show out of. You know what I mean? But that all changed in, I think, about summer of 2016. Everything kind of changed, and I created two characters who you can find these short with them on YouTube. It's still uploaded, but long story short, I created these two characters named Dinky and Daisy, and from about 2016 all the way up through probably mid 2023, I believe. Yeah, mid 2023. I thought those were going to be my characters that I, make my life off of. And for those 7 years, I developed those characters with a friend of mine who helped me, and we collaborated on that. And we made a short film that we released in 2019. And after that, we were like, okay, well, now we'll try to create a pitch Bible for a Dinky and Daisy show, and then we'll send it around to everywhere, and hopefully these networks will call us back, and then we'll be able to make our TV show. Unfortunately, that didn't end up happening. It was kind of a mixture of a lot of different things. First and foremost, we're in New Jersey. We don't have any sort of connections. We don't have any sort of into the industry. So we had that kind of stacked against us. Furthermore, it was during the pandemic, which kind of threw everything up in the air. But if you were trying to create something new, the industry was changing, things were evolving. There was just a lot kind of getting changed, I guess. And we kind of were seeing that happen in real time. But the part that really kind of really killed it for me was in 2023 with that was kind of the year that everything kind of exploded in terms of I don't want to be in the animation industry. As we were seeing the writer's strike. I think there was an actor's strike too. I didn't follow it too closely, but I just remember there was a lot of hubbub about people not being treated well, and with AI basically kind of coming into the mix, it created a very, very scary atmosphere, which honestly, it's 2025. It really has not changed all that much. I would love to get into animation, but it's very, very tough. And unfortunately, they're not really interested in making, a lot of new content, or not a lot of new shows and series and characters nowadays. it's all about, or not all, but it's a lot of it is just like pre-established IP. And, I don't have a pre-established IP with, millions of people ready to come see it. So I kind of was like, all right, I'm just going to put this to bed. And in about, I think it was October was when I kind of, and I had been toiling away with that idea for a long time, and me and my creative partner that I worked on this with, I feel like I just kind of spun my wheels way too much. I started changing things and like, no, we should do it this way, and no, maybe, the show should be this, and changing characters, and it just got way too out of control, and I just kind of was like, all right, I kind of need to stop this. I'm not into this anymore. I'm not with it. I don't want to do that. So I kind of put it to rest after, 20 years of, or not 20 years, closer to like 15 maybe, regardless, of coming up with like, what's my character going to be? What am I going to, make a TV show out of? I kind of put that to bed because, a lot had changed in my life in those 7 years from 2016 to 2023. And here I was, in my now late 20s, still trying to find a career job. And I kind of was like, all right, I'm going to put this to the side, and I need to kind of find a career, and that's just going to be my thing. And I don't want to, be bothered with all this stuff. So that's kind of the prelude to Squirt and Squishy. Now, how they come into the mix is, so while I was working on trying to make Dinky and Daisy into an idea or a show, I had a couple ideas on the side that I just kind of held onto for myself. And one of those ideas was a show about like a bunch of obscure animals just hanging around in the forest and, doing weird animal stuff. I don't know. It never really went too far, but I had drawings of some weird characters and an idea that I'm like, okay, I could see this kind of working. And also, on the side, I had an idea about an old man and a dog. And the old man would be kind of this belligerent, mean character, and the dog, who wouldn't talk, he would just kind of be, around and, happy, and the two would kind of bounce off of each other. And I had that idea, and so that idea, interestingly enough, kind of evolved over time. So what happened was, I remember, I believe it was October of 2023, I was at, work, working at a convenience store that I still currently work at. And I remember I was thinking in my head, I'm like, something, I want to have something in my head to just kind of pass the time. And so, I put Dinky and Daisy to rest, but, what's an idea I could kind of have in my head to just kind of, escape a little bit. And I was like, all right, well, I'll just think of interesting stuff with this old man and this dog character, and I'll just kind of, play that up in my head. It's never going to be real, but, I could dream. So I did that, and that idea kind of morphed from being about an old man and a dog to, what if it's an old man and an animal who he thinks is a dog, but it's actually an otter. And that idea got morphed even further to, what if the otter, he, when the old man is doing his own thing, the otter kind of like runs away to the forest behind the house. And that idea got morphed into, wait a minute, what if it's, instead of an old man, it's a little girl? And so it's this little girl kind of escaping her humdrum life. I don't know if I said that word correctly, but her not so fun life, and she kind of goes into the woods and she hangs around with all of her animal friends, and one of them is the otter. And that change kind of opened the floodgates to all these interesting ideas. And immediately, I would say about within an hour, I kind of had, okay, there's the little girl, her name is Squirt, there's the otter, his name is Squishy, because those are nicknames that me and my girlfriend have for each other. And, excuse me, the side characters, I'm like, well, who's the side characters? And I remembered, oh yeah, I have those obscure animal characters that I can use. And I kind of dropped the obscure part of them and just made them, just regular animals. So, like, interestingly enough, like, Squirt and Squishy were born from just that hour or two of just kind of the floodgates that open in my head. Malvin, Jack, Mrs. Dee Dee, Happy, Chuck, like pretty much all the characters that appeared in that first book came out of that. And very quickly I kind of realized, I went home and I was sketching this because I'm like, oh, this is too good to just keep in my head. I gotta write this down. I gotta draw these guys. And so I drew them, and I'm like, well, now I put myself in kind of a bind because I'm like, well, I kind of swore off making another or pursuing another project like this, but now I have this great idea in my head. And I was like, okay, because I thought about it for a couple days, and I'm like, maybe instead of trying to make a show, which is impossible unless you're, in the industry already, what if I just make a book? And it'll be a book of, originally I think I wanted to make it like 20 short stories. That got whittled down more and more, but I was kind of thinking, I'm like, this is kind of Winnie the Pooh-esque, right? And so I thought, maybe this would be kind of like a cool, this makes it sound way more important than it is, but like, Winnie the Pooh for the 21st century. And Winnie the Pooh, like, it was kind of this thing where it just kind of entered the public domain a couple years ago, or when I was coming up with this, I think it was earlier in the year, it was 2023, so, yeah, it just entered the public domain, and so I was like, okay, I could use, not because it was in the public domain, but I could use those stories and those books as kind of a jumping off point for what I want to do. And I really honed in on that, and I'm like, okay, I gotta start coming up with ideas, because I really want to make a book out of this. And so this was about, I think, early November. So from early November up until January, I was just coming up with ideas, drawing different things, and just kind of preparing to start production on the first book, which I did in probably, I think, mid to late January of 2024. But yeah, that's really how they came into existence. I can go on and on about, like, the characters and, the inspirations behind them. So I think I'll do another, for other Squishtastic story times that I do, I'll make individual videos on, like, each character, or talk about, like, the books as a whole, and then the individual stories. And yeah, interestingly enough, before I go, I thought I can do, 20 short stories. That got whittled down to, like, 12, and then I was like, okay, I can't do that, so I'll do 10, and then I was like, no, I'll just do 8, and 8 turned out to be, that was already tough. I cannot imagine doing 20 short stories, so I definitely made a good call there. But, it was interesting, because I bought the Winnie the Pooh books, and I was reading them, and I got inspiration, but there's a lot of parallels, but I was able to kind of leap off of that and kind of do my own thing with it. But those books provided a really good inspiration of, like, okay, keep it simple, keep it fun, keep it silly, and yeah. Honestly, I've described the Squirt and Squishy series of books, the world, as basically a mixture between Winnie the Pooh, Sesame Street, and SpongeBob. And, when you put those 3 properties into a blender, you kind of get Squirt and Squishy. So, but yeah, that's kind of where they came from. That's how I came to create them. That's the long road it took. So I'll see you in another Squishtastic story time. Bye.